Hello and welcome back. This episode is entitled "Where Has Ann Been?" or what the hell did I title it? Something like that. But anyway, the lovely Ann Sturzinger is back with us, and she's got some stories to tell, and she's got new problem glasses, as you can see there. And but I believe there's a couple of things we're going to talk about. But the first thing I think Ann wanted to talk about a book review. Is that correct, Ann? Or a review of a book?
Yeah. I'm really freaking tired. So this is going to be the worst review of one of the best books I've read in a very long time. And by worst, I don't mean negative. I mean incompetent. Because I spent most of the day having this labyrinthine fight with downtown LA architecture. First, I had to find. It should have been a simple mission. I had to copy some documents and then I had to mail them. So I go into the Central LA Library, figuring they got to have a copy machine in there. Well, I run from department to department looking for a cashier because none of the copy machines will take my $10 bill. Then I wind up being helped by some dude who, for some reason, I told my entire life story to, and he thought it was hilarious. But then I had to find a FedEx. So, I look on my Google phone, and I head for FedEx, and I find it, and it's in a Walgreens, and it's not actually a FedEx. It's just a place where you drop off and pick up packages. So I turn around, I find the next closest FedEx, and I walk up a very steep hill, and I get to the top of the hill, and I see just this gigantic piece of bizarre architecture. It looks like somebody did way too much coke when they made this thing. And I noted that it had a tiny escalator going up it, but the building, it didn't say it was a mall. It just had the name of a bank plastered across it. And Google Maps was still telling me that like FedEx was around the corner. So I follow Google Maps and I find myself in this parking garage. And the parking garage it's got one of those dipshit California signs that warns you that something's going to be bad for your health. Like being in this parking garage you might wind up breathing in some auto fumes.
Okay.
Like, thanks, genius. Is that one of those Homer Simpson signs where somebody, like stayed in a parking garage for 48 hours till they passed out and then they woke up in the hospital and said they had to put that sign there because of me? Or is this just more California overregulation? Anyway.
I don't know, but actually it's funny. A buddy of mine was stationed in South Korea, and they actually had signs up on how to use a toilet. And it was like what not to do, like literally like how not to use the toilet. And I thought it was a joke, but he took them with his phone. So it was really funny. And it has like, I forget, like people literally like standing on it and, sticking their head in it. And there's like an X through that. So it was, so it's not just California, if that makes you feel any better. Apparently those South Koreans, indoor plumbing, I don't know. Which surprised me because I always thought of South Korea as kind of like you said, the people with the jetpacks and stuff. But
yeah. Yeah, that's maybe they had some visiting tourists from North Korea. I don't know.
Yes, no. Actually, it's funny. I was thinking that it's probably all these escapees who come here from North Korea, and they see a toilet and like, what the fuck is this? I mean, it's
everything in South Korea is labeled for North Koreans. Like this is food.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like imagine like they North Korean comes to South Korea and they see some dude like mowing the lawn and they're like, "What are you preparing dinner?" So they're just think how bad that poverty is, where like grass is an actual commodity.
Yeah, Jesus, man,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I mean, I hope that regime comes down, but in more serious matters, like my bad day,
Chris says, Anne, your glasses make you look like you should be answering phones for Ghostbusters. Oh my God, I just had a flashback to that 1984 movie. You do look. Well, the first time they actually got a call and she hits the button, they come down the fire pole. Anyway, no, but thanks, Chris. Thanks for the comment. And those glasses are funky. But you have more to tell about your crazy day. I interrupted you with South Korean toilets.
It was an excellent interruption. I don't want to dominate this whole podcast because I'm too exhausted to talk too much. I mean, I had already walked from my house to downtown because I thought it would be a pleasant walk. And then I would just do these two simple errands. Oh, I forgot to mention, I had never been in the central LA library before. So I had already spent about an hour wandering around that building because it's so amazing. It's like a museum. It's got galleries. It's got the weirdest architecture I've ever seen in my life. It looks like somebody did acid and then sobered up and took the best of their notes and put a building together. But after that, I had to, do the more prosaic task of finding a FedEx in a mall that was built in the 80s. So Google Maps sends me into this parking garage, and I'm in there looking at this sign that's telling me I'll die if I stand there and suck on a tailpipe for too long. And then I see a dead pigeon, which I took a photo of. If you want to use that.
Yeah, yeah, you can send it to me later, and we'll put it in. We'll put it as one of the thumbnails for the video.
Yeah, there's just a dead pigeon laying there, and I figured, well, it's a parking garage, so there should be some way to get up to the mall, right? And I figured out, which address the mall that the FedEx is in is at, and I can see the address, but there's like this chain link fence in front of the elevator, and there's chain link fences in front of every elevator in this parking garage, and I'm like, how the fuck do people who park their cars get into the mall? So I'm like, fuck. So I go around and I think, well, that escalator I saw before, nothing about the building was labeled mall, but maybe if I go up that escalator, I'll find some clues. And sure enough, I get to the top of the escalator and there's this mall that was designed by, have you ever heard of the drug Spice?
No.
I had not heard about it until day before yesterday.
Well, I think I did your question was, have I ever heard of the drug Spice?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, but it was in a novel called Dune.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But now it's like a club drug. I have no idea what the fuck it is, but clearly someone was doing Spice when they designed this mall, because it's just like it's like a Dr. Seuss palace with like just curving alleyways that wind up in dead ends, and there's no map. There's no map at all. And of course it's Saturday, and of course it's a mall in 2019. So all the stores are either closed permanently or closed for the weekend. So I wander around desperately looking for someone that I can ask where the fuck the FedEx is. I finally find this like charcuterie with a old Greek man working at the counter, and his coworker is an older lady who's sitting there. I kid you not. She's sitting at the bar in this little deli thing, smoking a cigarette and drinking champagne at work.
Hey, that sounds like your kind of job.
I know. I'm like, how is that possible? How is she not getting tossed out? Maybe have they invented like a vape pen that actually burns down like an actual cigarette for the more real experience?
Hey, what's up? I just wanted to give a shout out to John Titer. Hey,
Hey, John Titer.
Hey, good to see you again as well. All right, yeah. So anyway, the question that everybody has on their mind right now is, did Anne find the FedEx? Or more importantly, not just the FedEx, did Anne find a copy machine at the FedEx?
Well, the thing is, I had already found the copy machine at the library. That's what I went to the library.
But it wouldn't take you $10, though, right? Oh, I see. Oh, so you did finally get copies. Now you just have to mail the copies. Is that
right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
The irony is, I didn't realize that FedEx has copiers. So I didn't need to go to the library at all. This could have been a one-stop shop.
Yeah, but see, if you did that, Anne, we wouldn't have this story.
That's true. And also, I wouldn't know how awesome the LA Central Library is. I'm definitely going to go back there. So I guess my own stupidity is not fucked me in the ass for once.
Okay. Well, speaking of being fucked in the ass, just could you lower down just a little bit?
Oh, my volume?
No, your face.
Oh.
Yeah, just so yeah. You don't have to like look like you're looking. Yeah, you can do that if you want. That's fine.
I'd rather people read my T-shirt because I love my T-shirt.
Okay. We the Unwilling, led by the Unknowing, are doing the impossible for the ungrateful. Is that a quote from someone I know?
I don't know who it's a quote from. I just love this shirt because I wore it to work at the Chicago Reader once, and my boss took it personally.
Ah, okay.
And the thing was, I did mean it personally, but only a really paranoid mind would have guessed that correctly.
Yeah, because you're like ironic and you know that whole thing.
Yeah,
you got that irony Gen X thing going on. You know,
dickhead.
You're kind of you're like a skinny Alanis Morissette. You know, kind of. Like,
isn't she skinny?
Is she? I don't think so. I
don't really remember what she looks like.
I just remember she had a man jaw. But I do remember she made a video long time ago where she's naked, but they like digitize it so you can't see her. Yeah, like it was on like MTV or whatever, you know. So there was a music video, and she's naked singing a song. I don't know the name of the song, but she's naked in it. But apparently she really was naked, and she's going around like hugging people and stuff, and like riding a subway naked.
Wow.
Yeah. That just stuck in my. I have no idea what the song was. I was like, "Why is this bitch naked?" I don't know. It's like that crazy English woman that did like a TEDx talk nude. I don't know if Chris is still watching, he'd know what it is. There's some like feminist crazy bitch did a talk naked. It was probably like on body positivity or something.
So I'm guessing she wasn't much fun to look at naked.
No, well, she's English, and you'd hate her. Apparently, she's never heard of using a razor down there, if you know what I mean. I mean, she had full-on jungle bush. So, I mean, this was like Amazon swamps going down there, you know. And I know that you consider that very unhygienic. So.
I consider it very smelly and itchy and just.
Well, to be honest, it's itchy. It's itchy when you completely shave down there, and then it starts to grow back. That's when it gets itchy.
That's true, but you get your monkey stuff stuck down there, you know.
Yeah,
I don't like feeling like a monkey at the zoo.
A monkey at the zoo, okay, but you don't mind being a monkey. It's just a monkey at the zoo.
Like this is probably too graphic, but if you're a woman and you don't shave your bush and you urinate, your bush gets full of pee.
Okay.
So yeah, not hygienic.
Well, okay.
But you know, there's other monkey like musk gland stuff that gets caught in the hair too.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why. I don't know what the reason we have. Well, like for example, I do know the reason that we have hair under our arms. Apparently, it's an evolutionary adaptation because it's where skin meets skin. So it's for like friction to stop that.
So why doesn't this hurt? My armpits are shaved.
I don't know. I don't think it's good to be shaving your armpits, though. I mean, it's good. Well, I mean, it's good. I don't like chicks with hairy armpits, but I mean,
that's gross.
It's well, in France, they're I don't know. Aren't they
dude, things have changed in France. They are crazy about epilation now in France. They have advanced epilation or de-epilation. Anyway, they've advanced shaving everything to a science.
Okay.
Like French chicks have no more body hair. I think it's because we teased them about it for so long. They developed a complex, and then they had to develop the technology.
Yeah, because it used to be, well, it's been a long time since I heard those French jokes, but they always used to say that they smell and they're hairy. And like the hairy armpits thing was, I don't know about their legs. I think they did shave their legs, but I think they used to.
No, now they smell beautiful and they're hairless.
Okay. I don't like completely hairless because it's just personal preference, but it's having a woman having hair in the pubic region is a sign of being post-pubescent, and not having hair is a sign of being prepubescent, and it gives me the EBGBs.
So are you calling me a child fucker?
No, I'm not calling you that.
I am Catholic. Chris is going to give me shit over that.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, oh God, he could say a bunch of shit about that. Oh, Chris, if you're still watching, Davis Arini had a comment about our stream. He filled in for you the week before last when you went incommunicado. But was it on
about art school?
Yeah, you were at art school.
Oh yeah, right.
What I was going to say, we were talking about how the millennial generation of the Zoomers, they don't get to have sex anymore, so they've all embraced this Christianity thing. Like my theory was that it's I think I talked about this with you as well. Was my theory is that it's a cope, because they can't get laid. Because let's be honest, guys. I mean, you remember guys when they were between 18 and let's say 25. All we do is think with our dick. Even when we're older, we do it. It's not as bad because it's not hard 24/7. But there's no way at that age you're going to turn down it if you can get it. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking a lot of these guys, not all of them. I'm sure there are some people who had religious experience.
Well, I'm sure they're all terrified they're going to turn out like Brock Turner, and like the girl's going to change her mind when she sobers up, and then they're going to wind up in jail.
That's true. That is another concern that everybody's worried about getting Me Too'd and all this kind of nonsense.
I mean, there's so much porn, and there's so much danger in having sex with actual women. I mean, it's probably not their first choice, but it's the safest choice.
Yeah, well, but I think they should just embrace like the MGTOW people if they're still around, like that group that.
Yeah, but any group becomes a bunch of retards.
Yeah. I don't know if they're really I don't know if they were an organization, but they were kind of popular might be. They used to have a big internet presence. There used to be a lot of famous YouTubers that were MGTOW. They were just sick of all this women shit, but now I think they probably call themselves something. It's kind of like the word alt-right. It comes and turns into something else,
Yeah. I mean, alt-right used to be like an umbrella for pretty much everybody who didn't fit in, and then all of a sudden it became Nazis.
Yeah, then it was all just Nazis and whatever. But now, I mean, isn't everybody a Nazi if you're not a member of Antifa? I think that's pretty much how they work it out now.
Yeah, if you're not a socialist, you're a Nazi.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have to be a socialist that embraces violence as well. I think they have. But let's get. I did want to. There's a couple of things I want to go back to about politics, but I want you to finish your story. You did get to finally mail your stuff. I'm hoping.
Yeah. The Greek guy and his coworker who was drinking at the bar got into this lengthy argument about the best way for me to get to the the FedEx. Like, these people work in this building. They clearly have been here long enough that they feel comfortable drinking and smoking in the building, and they still had a really hard time describing how to get through this maze to fucking FedEx. Like, they argued for like 10 minutes, and finally I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take an average of your two places. And then just they said something about, like, you know, turn the other way at the Starbucks. And I remembered seeing the Starbucks because I think I saw a living person in there.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, go back to where you saw the living person and then go in the opposite direction of the direction you went in the first place. And yeah, I finally mailed my thing. But by that time, I was so freaking tired I couldn't think. And I came home and immediately fell asleep. And therefore, I only managed to finish reading half of the book that I planned to review. So the other half of the book will have to wait for 3 months to get reviewed.
Yes. And Anne is actually has volunteered to go to. Anne's joining the Peace Corps, and she is going to Congo to help fight the Ebola epidemic. So she'll be gone for 3 months, and she's not sure if she's going to have internet connection. So we won't know if we'll be able to. We may. She may be able to get it. I think they're going to issue you a sat phone. So we'll see how the internet connection works. And we're hoping you don't catch the Ebola virus.
Well, I've survived typhus, so Ebola, shmabola.
Ebola, shmola, typhus, whatever,
Yeah.
Well, see, what happened was I think it was one of our first videos, Anne was talking about germ theory, and there was an expert from the CDC that actually watched our video and reached out to Anne and said, because she knows so much about germ theory, they said, yeah, you could be one of the people that comes over to the Congo and helps us fight the Ebola epidemic. And, Anne being Anne says, well, fuck it. If I stay here, there could be another noose in my cereal. So fuck it. How bad can the Congo be? So Anne signed up. And actually, I don't know if you have a date. You're waiting on the call to go.
Yeah.
Because it's on their dime. So you're not paying your own way. They're paying for you. So you're waiting to hear. And you'll be heading over there for 3 months, and you're not really sure of what the conditions are going to be like, and it's also true you don't know exactly where in the Congo you're going to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And my working knowledge of the geography of the Congo is poor, so it doesn't really matter where in the Congo they put me anyway.
You probably won't know the difference, right? I just hope you're not in the bad section of God. You're in the nice area, hopefully, but anyway, so that's, Anne is going to do a little hiatus or maybe not, maybe she'll be able to, depending on the, connections over there. I don't know how good the infrastructure is in the Congo. But maybe we will be able to do the streams. But enough about the third world. By
the way, if we don't do the streams, someone else will be doing it with John. So keep tuning in.
Yeah. I'll have like a guest of the week or something like that on. Yeah. No one with as pretty with problem glasses and interesting stuff on their T-shirt like Anne, but we'll have somebody on. I should actually have them do that. If to come on, you have to have like a T-shirt that's really freaky. Oh, by the way, I had to set. Luckily, I did this, or they would have apparently taken my channel down. YouTube changed all the rules, so everybody who has a YouTube channel, if you don't set it to not kid friendly, they'll delete your channel. Like obviously, our stuff would not be considered kid friendly. So you actually have to go into settings and click not kid friendly or words to that effect. And if you don't do it, they'll delete your channel.
What about those freaky Peppa Pig videos?
I don't know. There's all sorts of weird talk about that now, and like, you know, Artistic Layman, right? Or know of him? He's an animation guy. He co-hosts Backlush Stream. Yeah. Well, he makes a lot of really cool stuff, and for him, I think he was really confused about this because he's not sure if that's kid friendly or not because it's cartoons and stuff. So he's not really sure what to do. So and you know the way YouTube is like purposely vague just so they can, if they don't like you, they can terminate you. You know, they write their legalese in such a way, you know, they define it, you know, someone might find this offensive. What the fuck? I mean, you know, that's anything. Someone's going to find it offensive, especially in, you know, outrage culture we live in. But anyway, that's just a little side. So I did that before this, and I didn't know they sent the email when I logged into our joint email account, and they sent like the warning thing, but it didn't have a direct link to where you do it. So, you know, I mean, I found it, but it was just like, why didn't you just send just a link and I could click yes or no? But anyway, I think they're trying to get people to fuck up.
Yeah. By the way, I'm not smoking pot. I'm smoking caffeine.
You're vaping?
Yeah. My friend Alexi's buddy has this Eagle Energy shit that he's trying to hawk. It's actually pretty good.
Okay.
Hate me for saying that.
Vape. Well, you used to smoke cigarettes years ago.
Oh yeah. So this is really fun. I get to have the like cigarette smoking experience, but without taking anything all that harmful into my body. Just it's like caffeine and vitamins.
Oh, okay. I've actually tried vaping. I did it for a while and stopped. I went back to smoking cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes.
Yeah. I mean, vaping is fun. I got to admit, I thought it was gay, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah, well, there's all these different flavors you can get, and I did it for a while. I still got that vaping thing, so maybe I'll go back and do it again. It's supposed to be, I don't know. Some people use it to quit smoking because you can get the caffeine high, and I don't. You know what? I did get the patch one time, and because I was in the hospital, I had an extended hospital stay.
Oh God, I've heard the patch is a nightmare.
No, I had no cravings at all when they gave me the patch. They said, "Do you smoke?" And I said, "Yeah." And then she just stuck a patch on me, and I didn't realize it. I didn't have a craving for a cigarette at all, and I was in the hospital for like 4 or 5 days.
Does it release the nicotine evenly? I mean, don't you get like a rush at first?
I probably if you're not a smoker and you do it, it would. But I guess if you're a smoker, you have a tolerance to nicotine. But I didn't feel it. You know, it's a transdermal thing, so.
Oh my God, my aunt's husband, who's now dead for many reasons, mostly his own doing, once had a heart attack. I think it was a heart attack, some kind of horrible health thing, because he stuck like 10 nicotine patches on himself.
Oh, he OD'd.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That actually, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. It's with that guy. He was in one of my favorite films called In the Company of Men. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but you'd know it. And he did a film called Thank You for Smoking, which was based on a real life.
Dennis Leary.
No, not Dennis Leary. No, this guy.
I've seen that though.
Oh, you've seen the film, yeah. Well, he gets kidnapped by a bunch of in the film. He gets kidnapped by a bunch of anti-tobacco people, and they tie him up and put him in a van and cover him in in the nicotine patches, and he ends up in the hospital. It was pretty funny. But the funny thing about that movie, nowhere in the movie do they show anyone smoke a cigarette. I remember, and only people who smoke would notice that. And I remember talking to a friend of mine. I said, "Do you realize they never showed anyone actually have a cigarette?" And they're like, "Really?" I said, "Yep."
Just a million billion nicotine patches.
Yeah, well, that was just one scene where he's in the hospital because of but they never show anyone smoking because I think the point of it was supposedly a real guy. Oh, who gives a shit? That movie kind of sucked anyway. But I do like the actor. He was funny. But it was basically.
I don't remember that scene, but maybe I just conflated it with the actual incident from my uncle's life.
Yeah, it probably merged in your brain. Those two actual instances. But what else? But one of the things that we were supposed to talk about last episode, but you couldn't be here with us, where we were going to talk about threesome etiquette.
Oh yeah, threesome etiquette. It's difficult. I don't know what else to say right now. My brain is not working because I haven't eaten today.
Well, also, yeah, your sleep was really irregular, and so was mine. 'Cause
Yeah.
you sent me like a string of text at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was awake. And then you called me at like 8 in the morning. So it's like
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, did you not sleep at all?" I mean, I was also awake at 8. I answered, but it was like, huh, that was only like less than 5 hours later, and you were. So I hope you got some sleep.
I will go for 2 days without sleeping, and then I'll sleep for 12 hours.
Okay. I've been
And
known.
it doesn't seem to be tied to any particular thing I do. It's just like zero circadian rhythms.
Yeah, and then your body just says "fuck this" and it turns off, just shuts down, and you just out. You wake up, and I've had that where I've woke up and I don't know, is it 6 in the morning or is it 6 at night?
Yeah.
Especially this time of year when the day, especially because I live in a more northern latitude, and the days are really short this time of year, and it's like I don't know what time it is. When the day when there's no. Well, it's the same in like in the big, when summer first starts and winter's first, because it's daylight all the time and then it's night all the time. You don't know what fucking time it is.
Yeah.
And that's one of the worst things about the summer, though, is like here, like on the solstice, the summer solstice, I can't go to sleep if the sun just went down, and the sun doesn't go down here till like 10 o'clock at night on the solstice.
Sorry, have we been having feedback?
No.
Oh, okay. I just realized I had my my headphones plugged into. I've got my. Never mind. Technical shit. No one cares.
Oh, that's why my voice was coming in low before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you sound fine.
All right, great, good. Yeah, that sucks if you were like struggling to hear me. But anyway, so threesome etiquette, basically, it's rough, and the main thing is if you're the guy, just learn how to multitask. That's probably it.
Yeah, and get ready to deal with some jealous, angry feelings afterwards, because at least one of the girls is going to feel slighted, unless they're both cool girls, which there's I guess a high percentage of cool girls do threesomes, but even cool girls get drunk and weepy and throw vehicles at each other. And
well, in my experience, the girl that I had a girlfriend that was into that, and the only thing that really bothered her, I mean, I could do anything sexually with the other girl, but she couldn't stand it when I made out with the other girl.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
It does?
Well, you know how prostitutes don't like to kiss their johns?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. Okay.
They'll let them fuck him in the butt, but they don't want to kiss him because it's too intimate.
I do remember that line from Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't. Never been with the pro, but yeah, that is kind of weird. It's well, suck your dick, but I won't kiss you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've never been with a prostitute, but you've never seen a prostitute in a movie kiss the John. Have you ever?
I guess not. I don't know. Well, in porn, I don't think they really kiss either, but that's probably just because there's always a dick in their mouth. But I don't know.
Yeah, and also they probably both have terrible breath from rimming the last person they were working with.
Oh yeah, you're not doing that job anymore either, right? You're done with that. I mean, not that rimming. I mean the.
I'm on hiatus from that job.
Okay.
I'll be back.
But did you do more than one scene with them, or?
Yeah, it was. Well, I'm not going to embarrass the actress, but it was strange.
Okay, it was more than just. It was more of a fetish type of thing than just a standard boy girl.
Nah, it's just she forgot to take something out of her vagina.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's not be any more specific than that.
Yeah. Let's drop that one. It just ruining it. So let's see what else in the world of politics. You had tuned out of it for a little while, and I understand you just today you were kind of catching up on your Twitter feed, some of the politics that's been going on in the world.
Yeah, it's all bullshit. Are we ever going to get to this book review?
Oh yes, let's go straight. Well, because technically this is only half a book review, but if you got the book, right. Hold it up and.
Yeah, this is The Bomb Inside My Brain by Jim Goad. And anyone who knows anything about the little tiny social circle we run in, it is true Jim and I are friends. That doesn't change the fact that this is one of the best books I've read in a very long time. And maybe that's just because it really resonates with me personally. But I'm a self-centered bitch, so deal with it.
No argument here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I am so tired and so out of it that I might just read a couple of passages that really resonated with me and explain why.
Yeah, sure. And by the way, I can say this to our listening audience. That book must be enthralling because Anne did really want to do the show today because she actually, like I said, she texted me at 3 a.m. and called me again at 8 o'clock wanting to do the show. And so when I called her at like 9 o'clock and she answered, she's like, "Is it 9 already?" Because she was reading the book.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she totally lost track of time because she was totally enthralled. So anyway, you got a pass.
I would have finished the book in the single day if it weren't for the fact that the mall took me 3 hours to find the fucking store in. But what were you going to say?
No, I was saying if you have a passage you'd like to read from it, that would be great. Or if you want to go right to a review.
There are several. The overall gist of the book is, for anyone who knows Jim Goad, he has this image as being a dick, which you would only think that if you were illiterate and or had not read his work. The book starts out with sort of a eulogy for his, I think, deaf, mute, weird brother who was bullied and tortured all of his life. And then moves on to, well, there were 3 things I wanted to talk about with this book, but I can't even find my notes because I'm so fucking tired. Oh, I should have been able to remember this. It's simple enough. Death, love, and shitty priests and how dumb the Bible is.
Okay. Well, this goes on Becklov's Christmas list.
Yeah. Yeah. From chapter 5, Why You're Dead to Me. Jim had a seizure that almost killed him. I mean, he was legally dead. And it turned out it was because of a plum-sized tumor that was not actually in his brain, but between his brain and his skull. So he doesn't have brain damage, but he does have a metal plate in his head. But it almost killed him because it was cutting off arteries to his brain. So I'm for the sake of time, I'm going to have to pick my passages carefully, but Why You're Dead to Me. I almost died from the seizure that landed me in the hospital for brain surgery. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I figure that once you stop breathing so long that you turn blue, you're dead enough to know whether there's an afterlife. Now, being the selfish cow that I am, I'm going to explain why that resonates with me so much. I almost died 3 times this year, but one of them was my own fault, so that doesn't count. I was sexually assaulted by someone who almost killed me about a year ago. And then I got typhus and was in a 9-day coma where I was hallucinating like crazy. And I got no medical care because they threw me in the mental ward. So it was a coin toss whether I was going to live or die. And I was just laying there hallucinating, waiting to die. One of my best hallucinations, get this, was that President Trump got tired of his job. So he appointed me, the person who happened to be having the hallucination, president. then the reason he chose a woman was because he really likes to be liked, and he knew that everyone was mad at him for stealing our first female president.
Okay.
Yeah, so he picked a woman. He's like, I'm tired of my job. There you go. There's your first female president. I was president. I kicked ass. And now here you go. Here's a woman president. But the problem was, before I went into the hospital, well, before I went into the coma and the fever, I had already been diagnosed with typhus. But I was also hallucinating from the fever and the typhus. And I was in a mental ward because I was so out of it when I got into the hospital that they didn't realize there was something physically wrong with me, and they were too stupid to take my temperature, so they tossed me in the mental ward. So imagine trying to talk your way out of a mental ward when you know you have typhus, but you also think you're president of the United States.
We should have, someone should have taped those conversations. They would have been very interesting.
The two things I accomplished as president of the United States was bullying the nurses out of giving my roommate so much opiates that she couldn't function. Like, she was an 85-year-old woman who couldn't even move. And when I left, she was actually like talking like a normal person. My other accomplishment as president was to try to escape in a basket of laundry.
Well, I mean, if you're president, like, couldn't you like call in like a special forces team to extract you from the mental ward?
Oh, that's the thing. There were helicopters that kept going over the building, and I kept sitting in this chair thinking that the chair would lift me up. Like, I thought the helicopter was the presidential. I thought the helicopter was, what do you call it, Air Force One. And if I sat in the chair, I would be airlifted up into Air Force One, and then I would get proper medical care.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm guessing, presidents probably do get good medical care. No Obamacare for them.
I mean, that's why I agreed to be president. I didn't really want the job because I was like, man, if this guy doesn't want the job, why would I want it? But then I realized I had typhus. And I was also hallucinating that I'd had an ischemic stroke. So I was like, I need world-class medical care. I will take the job.
And you get eyes and dental too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, and I know you're big on the glasses because you seem to have a different one each episode.
Yeah. Well, I have to take them off now to read. I'm starting to need reading glasses, but let's go back to Jim, because this is
okay. Go back to Jim.
Review. Like, I am so tired that the only book review I can do is to say this is a magnificent book, and I'm just going to read passages from it and then tell you why I like that passage, because I'm brain dead. So, by contrast to me, who hallucinated that I was president while I was almost dead, Jim saw nothing. Again, I turned blue, and again I saw nothing. Nothing. Dead. Although on some dim level most people realize they're going to die, it's difficult to wrap what's left of your brain around this concept unless you've been close to the precipice. But here I'd come so close to death, it was as if I'd French kissed my own mortality. Even though I slipped through the Grim Reaper's clutches that time, for the first time in my life, I actually felt that sooner or later, very possibly sooner, my card was going to get pulled. And I think that stands on its own. I've already explained my feelings about death.
Is there an Jim was raised a Catholic, if I remember correctly, right? He was an Irish Catholic from Philadelphia.
Yeah, he was an Irish Catholic from Philadelphia, but then he had a sort of fundamentalist Christian period before he realized, which is when he actually read the Bible, which is when he realized that the Bible made no fucking sense.
Yeah, and you were raised Catholic, so you know this, and so was I, just for the record. I was raised a Catholic. I'm not a Catholic now, but I'm not even a Christian now. I'm not sure what Ann is, so I won't speak for her. But generally speaking, Catholics don't really read the Bible the way, like, it's kind of a Protestant thing where they have like Bible study and stuff. Like, Catholics don't do that.
No, that's what you pay a priest to do.
Yes, exactly. And they tell you what it means. So Catholics, by and large, they go to church on Sunday, like practicing Catholics, and they usually all own a Bible, but they don't. They
Use
don't.
it as a doorstop.
Yeah, kind of, or it's just something to like the old Bibles, like where you record the Bibles have things where you record weddings and births, and
Right.
the Catholics would do that. It's where everybody, the parents would keep their kids' baptism certificates and stuff like that. But yeah, it is kind of like a doorstop. It's this glorified book that would sit on the shelf or you'd have somewhere, like a family heirloom kind of a thing. But it wasn't something meant to be read. It was just something to have. And which kind of weirds Protestants out because, Protestants are always quoting Bible verses and Catholics don't do that.
Oh God, I hate it when they quote Bible verses at me. I just want to punch them in the eye. I shouldn't say that. I'm way too violent. I need help. Anyway.
But just so you know, like that's for those people who are Protestant and don't know like the Catholics things, I actually did take the time to read the Bible, but it wasn't, I didn't do it for spiritual reasons. I did it just for my own education. It was, private meditation, so to speak. Oh, by the way, we promised to show you Anne's pussy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay. Don't say that we don't deliver here at Steel Sturzinger. There's Anne's pussy right there. And she even has a name for it.
Oedipus.
Oedipus. Okay.
It's a female, but I named it before I realized it was a female, so it is a boy's name.
Yeah, and I believe Oedipus fucked his mother and killed his father.
Yeah. Just for the record, I don't have sex with my cat.
Yeah, let's get that. Oedipus Rex was the story, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay, so you're going to finish with Jim's book. Sorry, Jim, we didn't want to, get you in there with the ancient Greek, but it happens. Go ahead.
All right. So this chapter is called Love Among the Damaged. Those who need love the most will almost never find it. That is the coldest and cruelest truth of human existence. It burns like ice. No one needs love more than those who've been deprived of it, yet no one has more difficulty getting it, and no one finds it easier to lose it either. It's like a romance comedy that abruptly turns into a horror movie again and again and again. When you've been exposed to extreme cruelty or savage indifference early on, your life is a repeated waking nightmare. If you grew up deprived of love, you will most likely grow old the same way. If you grew up bathed in love, you will bask like a giggling baby in the sunshine until you die. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to the part where you break up. And this part really resonates with me because of an ex I had, Eric, the guy who, when we both turned 40, he left me for a 20-year-old girl. And then it turned out, I found out from his mother that his father used to hang him from his ankles as a punishment, which kind of explains why he's such a dick, but I still hate him for doing that. Especially since he kicked me out of the house so he could date this girl, and I wound up at his parents' house, and his stepfather tried to get into bed with me. So, all right. The sense of betrayal burns like bleach in the face. This person who loved you like no one else ever has now hates you like no one else ever has. And it's all because no one ever taught either of you how to love in the first place. You were only schooled in how to hate. Hatred is only love denied, and people who have had easy lives never realize that. They think hatred is something consciously willed. They can't understand why anyone would be so silly as to hate in such a love-filled world. They can perhaps be forgiven for their myopia because they've never known any other way. I think that speaks for itself.
Yes, he has an interesting take on that. I don't necessarily agree with. I think from what I know about Jim's writing, he is a little bit. It's my opinion. It's not a character judgment of him, but from what I've read of him, he seems to have. I always thought that Jim kind of he doesn't see other people's points of view very well. Like there was an interesting study that they did. I can't remember what they called it, but they gave people questionnaires, like people who were liberal, people who were conservative, and people who were independent. And they asked them like a bunch of questions, and then they asked them to fill out the same form, but answer it as if, like, they had the liberals answer it as if they were a conservative, answer the same thing as if you were, and vice versa. Now the conservatives and the independents were able to answer the questions as if they were liberals. You know, if you read the answers, the liberals weren't able to do it.
Of course, but
they couldn't see that. They couldn't make themselves, see that way. And I'm not accusing Jim of being a liberal. I happen to know that he's not. But
yeah, he's kind of like me. He's politics hostile.
Yeah, he's somewhat apolitical. Well, I mean, he's not well, he follows politics, but he doesn't belong to a party.
You get caught up in politics even if you hate it, because that's all anyone ever fucking talks about. It's interesting to watch the fucking circus, but that doesn't mean you like being there.
Yeah, well, I think what's happened now is everybody is pulled into it. Like, politics has gotten to the point where it has such an impact on our day-to-day lives as government has grown and grown, telling us, joking about who our doctor is and things like that, things that would have never been, or look at public schools now where they're telling 6-year-olds how to pleasure themselves. They're giving courses in masturbation and stuff.
I guess it's not so much political apathy as it is just a revulsion for team sports.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, I pretty much have a part of me does kind of look at it as like, well, fuck it, I don't have any kids. I just need them to keep the lights on for the next 30 years, and yeah. I'll just watch the show.
Man, if I had kids, I'd be putting my money on Elon Musk right now. Get us the fuck off this planet before we accidentally detonate it.
Yeah, well, I don't know what I would do if I had kids, but I probably would just go total off-grid living or something. I don't know if you've ever done that, like watch these hypnotic YouTube videos where there's like no talking or anything, and it's just these people like living out in the middle of nowhere, totally self-sufficient, and like, that you like just with a pocket knife, you give them a pocket knife and they build like a shopping mall. I mean, it's just like
yeah. I've never watched those videos, but I have a good old friend from Wisconsin who pretty much lives like that.
Yeah, it's amazing the way that they just do everything without, no power tools, no nothing, just, and they do, there's this one guy that I think his channel is like Self-Reliant Man or something like that up in Canada. And he just built the cabin from scratch all by hand, just him and an axe. And, he built that. It's just amazing. Of course, everything takes forever to do, but
they can do anything.
Yeah, and just the ability.
And get this, my friend also, for money, he works as a public school teacher.
Oh wow!
He's always the kid's favorite teacher, of course.
Yeah,
because he's the only one who's not a retard.
Yeah, and because don't get me started on the whole public school thing. That's a separate that's a show for. Well, fuck that show. We're never gonna do that show.
No, we're never gonna do that show.
But what would is there some other topic you'd like to touch upon? We have a little bit more time.
There's
one more, Jim, you want to read?
Yeah, one more Jim passage, which is just such a bizarre coincidence that either it's just a bizarre coincidence or Catholic priests are always dicks at funerals, because I had sort of unpleasant relationship with my mother growing up, but I had a surrogate mother, my one blood aunt, my dad's only sister. My mom had 9 kids and 1 girl. And I love my aunt so much. I worship the ground she walked on. And when she was 35, she finally found the man of her dreams, got married, had a baby. 3 months later, she and the baby died in this horrific car crash. And we went to the funeral, and her husband had been previously married to a really abusive woman who he just had to get away from. And so he just legally divorced her, but he didn't get an annulment from the church because it was too hard. So the priest spent the entire funeral making this big, strong, wonderful man cry because his wife and child were going to go to hell because they were living in sin because he had never had an annulment. I'll never fucking forget that. And I'll never forgive God or the Catholic Church or whatever for that.
I don't blame you. That's some fucked up shit.
I mean, this guy was a big, tough Air Force dude, like 6'3", pure muscle, and he was crying like a baby. I wanted to run up and I was 13 years old. I wanted to run up and wring that priest's fucking neck. So this is a really odd coincidence because listen to this.
Okay, go for it.
This was a standard funeral mass. This is Jim's father's funeral. This was a standard funeral mass, and the time came for Father Jones to deliver his eulogy. Oh, by the way, I love the title of this chapter. It's "Fuck You, Father Jones." Anyway, but this was a standard funeral mass, and the time came for Father Jones to deliver his eulogy. I don't remember specifics, but the essence of his sermon was that my father, Al Goad, was not a good man. For what seemed like 10 minutes, Father Jones hammered on the idea that my father was a despicable weasel. We Goad sat in our front row pew, incredulous. This was possibly the rudest thing I've ever witnessed. If you didn't think he was a good man, let your stupid God decide. This dumb fucking ritual is for the family's benefit, not yours. As we rode to the cemetery in our rented limo, my sister Chris was crying and cursing Father Jones, while my brother John stared stonily ahead without saying a word. I mean, really, do all Catholic priests ruin funerals, or is this just a weird coincidence?
Well, I'm not going to say all, but I'm not a Catholic, so I left the church when I was, a teenager. So
I mean, why would you ruin someone's funeral? But get this, of course, and I'll give you the short version. Turns out Father Jones, total boy fucker, and actually had a boy captive from age 15 to 18. And it's disgusting. Jones told fellow priests and other people that Christopher was his adopted son, and that he convinced Christopher fondling one another was a sign of trust.
Oh, gross.
But some random parishioner was a weasel.
Yeah, actually, you just telling me that story. I found out just recently that my freshman year biology teacher, Father O'Herlihy, was a pedo, and he's on the list if you Google him. He was they call it being delaicide, like
you're defrocked and then you're delaicide. I think.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. The first time I saw that word used, and so he was kicked out of the church. Now, he never did anything to me, but I knew him quite well. He was head of the Emerald Society. And he apparently had, and it was weird because I actually had a call, and I'd forgotten about this. I was actually called up by the, I guess there was a lawsuit against the Catholic Church, and they must have gone through the yearbook and saw that I was a student of his. And they actually called me up, and they left a number, and they were really vague about what it was about. And, but it wasn't a robot call. It was a real voice, and it was a woman. So I called back, and it was the number for action against sexual abuse or whatever. And, they called me back again because I didn't leave a message. And, I said, no, I didn't do it. But I said, I knew one of the parishes where he was very active at the grade school there, because I think he liked them young. And I said, if you're looking for more potential victims, look there. But that was a hell of a shock, because I mean, at the time, I mean, this is going back many, many years ago. This is going back to the early mid 80s. I liked him. I thought he was a good teacher. I mean, got an A in that class.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's so disillusioning for Catholics when priests, and I explained this to David Cole, priests aren't like rabbis or pastors. Like, rabbis or pastors are basically just guys doing a job at some level, but Catholic priests are your direct line to God.
Correct.
So when your direct line to God does something totally viscerally beyond the pale, your faith in God is almost inevitably shaken, unless you're such a psychotic retard that you're just going to double down on your Catholicism.
No, that's very true. I think that's a very fair criticism of Catholicism in general. Was not just the fact that there was so many priests that were involved in this for such a long time, but the fact that even those who were not diddling the children, the hierarchy in the church actively covered it up.
Yeah.
So they were, what is that? A conspirator after the fact is the legal term for it. So it's that's hard to get around. I'm not sure how Catholics square that circle. I think it probably is people were just in the church for so long. This is all they know. So it's, I mean, I hate to simplify it, but it's almost habit. Like, well, then if they give that up, like, then what? Because I do believe that religion of some sort is generally a healthy thing in life for most people. It helps us deal with, the unknowable and the incomprehensible, things like that.
Yeah, but what if you know it's not true? I mean, how do you find a religion that you believe in after, you've been raised in a religion like that, and then you realize the direct line to God is a pedophile who ruins funerals?
Yeah, well, that's where that's where like my work of studying Joseph Campbell came in. That's how I arrived at my religion, quote unquote, whatever you want to call it, spirituality. Was the you kind of have to go on your kind of your quest, so to speak, to find the answers, or at least to understand the questions, and that's probably unique to every person. So no one person, there was an interesting story. Joseph Campbell, you know who he is, right? The mythologist Joseph Campbell. And he was talking about the Arthurian legend when the Knights of the Round Table were sent out on the quest for the Holy Grail. And one of the things, one of the versions of that story is when the quest knights go off into the forest, they each go into the forest. They each take a different path. Like no one follows the other. They all enter the forest in a different way. And that's supposed to be a metaphor for how everybody's path is different.
Right.
So it's kind of like asking for advice from another person on this thing. All they could do is give you platitudes. It's got to be you got to find your own way. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a platitude as well, but I don't know how else to say it. It's just true. Look, there are no easy answers. There are no shortcuts. You just got to go out there, get the beatings, and hopefully arrive at some, and maybe you find nothing, that is, and then maybe you become like a Nietzschean, and then you're just, the Ubermensch. I don't know.
Well, what's saved me is my sense of humor. I mean, maybe that's my religion. When was I telling you this before? When I was in the ambulance, after I was sexually assaulted and I was going to give evidence, I was screaming with laughter. Just screaming with laughter. The whole situation seemed so hilarious to me. And I think part of it was relief because I was about 85% certain that he was going to kill me. And I kind of felt like I got off easy. I was like, wow, I thought I was going to die. I didn't die. That's hilarious. I don't even know where I found the humor in that.
Well, here's an interesting fact. No, people do that all the time. Like there was actually a study done. The majority of time people laugh is not when something is funny. Like, for example, have you ever like someone like shocked you, like you turn around, you didn't know someone was there, and you go, "Oh fuck, dude, you scared the shit out of me."
Actually, I have a sort of accelerated startle response. So what I do is I leap up in the air and give a blood curdling scream. So just anyone who knows me, don't ever come up behind me and say my name.
Yes, always give plenty of notice. Don't be hanging out in her blind spot. It's a good thing she doesn't drive. That's why Ann doesn't drive, because there's blind spots on cars. But again, Ann on the highway, just like knocking them.
This is why I don't drive. Yeah, you know, when I worked at the Chicago Reader, it was like a cubicle farm, and my coworkers thought it was the funniest fucking thing in the world to sneak up behind me and say my name just to hear me give a blood curdling shriek and jump out of my chair.
And this is before smartphones, guys. So it's a good thing she doesn't work there now, or it would have gone viral. All the Ann's jump scares, you know. No, but the point, no, but to go back about the laughing thing, that is, it literally is a stress reliever. So it's kind of like a release valve. I mean, I think, like they showed, it releases, it lowers like things like cortisol level, like when you're stressed, like when you were assaulted, those things are all hyper elevated, and laughter is kind of like your body's natural medicine. I mean, they've done studies on that.
But I wasn't just laughing. I was telling jokes. I was texting jokes to Jim. I was telling jokes to the EMTs. I was telling jokes to the doctors. I mean, I was making really inappropriate humor about the whole situation. I mean, if I'd been the perpetrator, I would have probably added 20 years to my sentence. But since I was the victim, they were just like, what the fuck? But then I started vomiting.
Oh, that's the adrenaline did that to you.
Yeah, when I stopped telling jokes and screaming with inappropriate laughter is when I started vomiting.
No,
they're like, and they could see it on my face. They're like, "Get the bedpan."
Oh, you turned green.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not uncommon.
No.
But yeah, God, that's well, thank God that's over with. No more trips to Chicago for you, I'm hoping.
If he pleads out, I don't have to go to Chicago. If he doesn't plead out, then I have to go to trial and appear in court and see that fucker's face.
Yeah, I think it's highly unlikely he'll want a trial, because if he asks for a trial, he's looking at life, because they can charge him with so many different things.
Yeah, because he's done. He burgled somebody's house after he raped me.
Yeah, but they also can get him for like what they do on a plea deal is like he'll plead guilty to all these felonies, and they'll make a deal where the sentences run concurrently instead of consecutively. But if he goes to a trial, then the judge could just throw them, because they don't like when you do that. It costs the state a lot of money, so they could just. That's why they like people to plea out. Everybody likes it, even usually the defendants, because they get less time. So, and if you go to trial and you lose, you're looking at So the only time like there's like always going to be a trial, and most states actually have this as a rule, is a death sentence case. You can't, even if you want to die, they have to give you a trial.
Okay.
So I find it highly unlikely this guy. Well, in a weird, sick way, it would almost be a good thing he'd be a trial, because then he'd be in jail he's going to die in prison.
Yeah. Wow. I forgot what I was just going to say. I'm so tired. I was going to say something about. Well, whatever. Go on. What were we talking about?
No, I was asking about trips to Chicago and that thing that came out. Yeah. I don't know if that sparks your memory. But yeah, I don't. I was just saying I don't think you have to worry. It's really unlikely that this guy is gonna is going to ask for a trial, unless he's looking at
what I was going to say. Unless he's looking at what?
So much time on the deal that he's going to just roll the dice with the trial.
Right.
But they already have him on other things anyway. So anyway, but go ahead.
Yeah, he's committed so many crimes. Like, dude is going to go away for a long time if he goes to trial. But what I was going to say is, I found one of the local papers ran a very short piece about him and me. I
read it.
Yeah. Did you look at the photo?
Yeah, I believe so.
He looked all doe-eyed and sweet in the photo.
Well, I didn't see it that way, but anyway, yeah. I mean,
as doe-eyed and sweet as a rapist and serial burglar can look, but like they had him looking sad, and like I'm pretty sure that mugshot was taken like while he was in withdrawal and was feeling some kind of remorse, not for what he'd done to other people, but for what was going to happen to him. The mugshot they showed me was completely different. It was this dead-eyed horror show of a human being. Just like looking at it made my blood run cold. And I'm so pissed off about that, because either the police chose to give the newspaper the nice looking photo of him, or the police gave the newspaper a selection of photos and they chose the doe-eyed sweet looking one.
Yeah, I don't. That's a good question. You would know more about that than I did, because you worked in the business. So I don't know how that works when they do that.
If they choose people's photos based on how they want the public to perceive them.
Yeah, well, I'm actually kind of surprised they even showed the photo, because he was black, and usually they don't want to do that. Like, especially in cities like Chicago, they'll just say, you know, a perpetrator, and they leave out, you know, they won't say like a black male or anything like that, you know, of course, unless the guy's white, and then they'll say, you know, it's a white guy did it.
Oh, you want to hear something really funny? There's a white guy who has the exact same name as this guy, who also committed rape in the state of Illinois the same year.
That's creepy.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, that is.
But I think the reason I'm starting to get creeped out by the whole like photo thing and the fact that they showed his face, because they also made a big deal of the fact that he wasn't charged till a year after the crime, which made it sound like it was my fault, like I reported it late or something, and instead of it being the case that it took the Chicago Police Department 10 fucking months to process the DNA, and then another couple of months to get a lineup to me here in LA, and then I had to save up and, you know, Chicago is paying for me to, you know, to fly, but I had to front the money, so I had to save up for that. So there was a delay basically because of the Chicago Police Department. But the way they worded it made it sound like I had waited whatever amount of time to report the crime. So I kind of feel like they're gearing up to drag me down Michigan Avenue or something. You know, that doe-eyed photo.
Yeah, well, that's the way. John in the chat says, "I'm amazed by how you I'm amazed by how you are handling this, Ann. I want to kill that piece of shit." Yeah, I feel the same way, John.
Yeah, thanks, John.
But the media does put a spin on that, but I do remember how long that was taken. And wasn't this piece of shit, wasn't he like, when they did finally process the DNA, he was already in custody for another crime, right? Like he was,
he had been in custody in May for another crime. He broke and entered and burgled somebody's house, and they let him go because they hadn't processed the DNA from the rape yet.
Oh, so they let him post bond, and that's insane how long that took. I remember actually after that happened, I do remember, I don't know if it was you, it might have been Jim Goad, or actually someone posting an article regarding how like the backlog on DNA in what county is Chicago in again?
Um, Cook County, but it's the entire state of Illinois shares one forensics lab.
Okay.
So there's a backlog all over the state, and actually, there's a backlog nationwide. I mean, I forget what the statistics are, but there's an obscene number of rape cases that are just sitting in limbo because for some reason we can't come up with enough money to process the DNA.
Well, actually, Barry Scheck, he was the guy that he was the. I don't know if you remember that guy. He became famous. He testified. He was one of OJ's attorneys, but he strictly was brought in just for the DNA part of it because that's his forte. And he actually started something to process. That there was this huge backlog of DNA cases, rape cases, and a lot of guys got found proved innocent. If the DNA was the wrong person.
Right.
So he was saying that whether you're a victim or being charged with the rape, there's no reason not to do this every DNA case. But initially, like anything else, it used to be very expensive to do these types of tests.
Right. I mean, DNA tests have come a long way since OJ. It probably cost 50 cents to do it.
Yes. Now it's really cheap to do. I mean, what are they? What is it? 23andMe or something? What is that? Like $99 or something?
Yeah, and that's at a profit, and that's doing a full spectrum. I mean, okay, fine. Sometimes you only find fragmentary DNA at a crime scene, and sometimes it's a little bit more complicated than that, but not that.
But if you have blood or semen, it's easy to do DNA.
Yeah. Like I'm talking about the DNA that you drop when you're just walking around.
Right. Like skin cells and things like that. That's harder. Yeah.
Yeah, that's harder. But blood or semen should be like 5 minutes and you're done.
Yes. So it is ridiculous that it takes that long. And I guess it's like there is one thing though. I do believe that interesting thing about Chicago was that they have a private lab. I assumed a city that large would have its own in-house, forensic lab.
The forensics lab for the entire state happens to be in Chicago, but it is not exclusively for Chicago. It processes DNA cases from Carbondale to Naperville to, the border of Wisconsin.
Okay. So, wow. So that's a busy lab.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. I mean, I
One
wonder.
fucking forensics lab. And the taxes there are so obscenely high. I mean, sorry, I'm getting angry. Chicago is so corrupt.
Yeah, I mean, didn't you? Well, you're not there anymore. I can't say you, but didn't they impose a toilet flush tax or something? Or I forget. There was some crazy thing in Chicago. It was one of their other taxes. They get very creative with coming up with new taxes. I think it was like some additional tax they were adding to your water bill or something like that.
Yeah. They have to do something to make up for the fact that they sold the rights to the parking meters in the city to a private company for a one-time fee. They've lost that income forever.
Yeah, that was. I remember reading a story about Detroit, another bastion of liberalism, where they showed that because of the way they have these third parties handle things, that for every ticket that the cops would write, the city would lose $10 because of the bureaucracy that was involved. So it actually cost them money to write tickets. So that's, I'm not sure we should be laughing or crying, but I'm just saying that's how bad
I'm
it is.
stealing this move from Dr. Randomer Cam, but I'm not drunk like he is, so I can't smash my head as hard.
But yeah, that's how crazy these liberal cities are. But on the positive note, you're out of Chicago and you're staying the fuck out. Yes,
Yes, I will never move back there. And I'm in L.A., which is it's kind of a bastion of liberalism, but they actually do like liberal things that make sense. Like since I've been, I fled here. I haven't been able to work very much. I don't have very much money, and I've been ill. And speaking of not swallowing everything your team believes, I have a lot of conservative beliefs, but I'm kind of becoming sold on socialized medicine. Hear me out.
Okay, good.
I was in a mental institution in Chicago, which has mostly privatized medicine, and it was the most ghetto ass shithole you will ever see in your life. It was a nightmare. They had 300-pound men throwing furniture around, and they confiscated my glasses. So I'm ducking furniture with no glasses. The mental institution that I was in California when I had typhus and they thought I was schizophrenic, still horrible because it's a mental institution, but much better facilities, much better food, much better everything. Like just because nobody's pocketing the money. I mean, yeah, the taxpayer is paying for it, but
right. Well, here's my 2 cents on that. Like, there is arguments for socialized medicine, but one of my challenges with it, like, I wouldn't mind socialized medicine per se in theory if we had a society where we had strict borders and things like that, and people had a sense of responsibility, and we lived in a somewhat homogeneous population. Like up until very recently, countries like Germany and the Scandinavian countries, socialized medicine worked very well there.
Yeah, and if you got taxed extra for like being eating high fructose corn syrup, so that
Well, that also comes down to my views on tribalism. I believe like if you're a member of a tribe, like you feel like in some ways your neighbor is your kin. But if you live in like any metropolis in the United States now, everybody's so atomized and individualistic. Everybody's just want my gimme that. I don't care about everybody else. I just want this. I just want this. So they don't think about like, well, taking care of myself is not just taking care of myself. It's like for example, let's say you have kids. One of the reasons you take care of yourself when you have kids is like, I want to make sure I'm around to take care of them. You know what I mean? So people say, I mean, I know a lot of people who, let's say, quit smoking when they get, when they have a kid or get married, they're saying, well, now it's not just myself anymore. I have to. So if there's this extended feeling of community, then things like socialized medicine can work. But when you live in our society, it can't. But the other thing, I have a good friend of mine that's actually a doctor, and he doesn't do this anymore. But before he got married, he used to make extra money doing ER shifts. And like at you can't do this at like trauma units, but like most hospitals, most ER hospitals are not, there's a doctor there, but like they couldn't do, if you come in with a gunshot wound, there's nothing they could do. They're going to send you to the trauma unit,
Yeah.
So he would work these 12-hour shifts once or twice a week just to make extra money. I mean, he used to literally work all night and then go to his day doctor job.
I cannot believe medical personnel can function with the hours they work.
Well, actually, he said a lot of times you can sleep, but they have a doctor's lounge where and then he was talking. One of the places he worked in was, and I remember this clearly because it was during the Walter Reed scandal, the VA hospital. I don't know if you remember that. It was years ago during the Iraq War, and they showed how bad the hospital was. It was a VA hospital.
Yeah.
And I remember I was talking to him on the phone one time, and he was driving back. He had a long drive too, because the VA hospital he worked at was, I think it was the one up in the Air Force, the Naval Air Station, rather, up a blank. Anyway, and he was saying that they're bitching about Walter Reed. He goes, let me tell you, man, compared to the most VA hospitals, that place is a fucking palace. He goes, you should see the VA hospitals I've worked in. He goes, it's horrible. and they get more money than the private hospitals he worked at. But so much of the money would go to like the support staff. Like people would come in, like they wouldn't have computers or anything. Like there was cases where a guy came in with like his arm, he lost his arm in Iraq, and they, his right hand, and they give him like a form to fill out with pen and paper. Well, how's he? I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, there's stories like that. So the VA,
maybe it's not socialized medicine versus private medicine. Maybe it's just that people in California are more, at least superficially, nice than people in Chicago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chicago is, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure what Chicago is always like. I mean, I remember going to Chicago in the 90s and the aughts, and I actually had good times there. But now it's turned into a complete hellhole.
Sorry, I cut off your thought. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying Chicago used to be it used to be a nice place, in the 90s and aughts. At least I remember it being such. But now it's everybody's leaving it. The taxes are high. It sucks, and everybody's miserable who lives there. It seems.
Yeah.
It seems like it's one of those cities where everybody wants to get out of, not go to.
Yeah.
And maybe there is a mystique about LA where everybody kind of wants to at least go to LA for some time in their life. I mean, I don't think you could imagine yourself growing old in LA. I could be wrong, but I'm guessing.
Old people are always cold, so it never gets cold here. So it might be a nice, if you could move into a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, well, you could go to Arizona and live a lot cheaper. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But yeah, I do know you hate the cold, which is kind of funny considering Wisconsin and Chicago are the two places you hate the cold so much.
Well, I have a theory about my brain, but I won't go into that.
Won't go into that. But anyway, we've been going on about an hour and 20. We're gonna sign off here, and Anne may or may not be back. I mean, she's gonna come back. It's just we don't know when she's gonna get back from the Congo. Could be she could be transmitting there or not. Well, we're gonna see. I'm anxious to find out. But if she is, we will be hearing from her. If not, I will probably just get weekly fill-in guests to do this. But anyway, everybody, thanks for listening. And Anne, any last words? You want to plug Jim's book and where people can get it?
Yeah. You can probably get it on his website. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon. It's called The Bomb Inside My Brain.
And is he jimgo.net or jimgo.com? I forget which. He's one of those two.
Do you think my memory is that good?
Well, Google Jim Goad, guys. He's written a shitload of books and he has a huge internet presence. So JMGOAD. He is a good writer, despite what people may think about him personally. I actually have read the Redneck Manifesto, which I enjoyed very much, and I actually have read many of his Talkie Mag columns. I believe, the Week That Perished, I believe, is his weekly column.
I've told this story so many times, but I loved telling it. So just let me tell it quick before we sign off. My first exposure to Jim Goad was I read all of Answer Me, which is just 4 big thick zines, plus the collected works of Edward Gorey, both volumes, in one acid trip when I was 19.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. That must have been intense trip.
Yeah. Especially when, weird little animals start dying in the, because I read Answer Me first, and then I read Gorey second, and it just this shit gets weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder.
Yeah. I mean, he is, interesting writer, shall we say?
Yeah, I'd say an amazing writer. I've learned a lot from him.
Yes, he is a good writer. I mean, I could personally recommend Redneck Manifesto, but that's one of his older works, I believe. I don't know when it was first published, but he's written a lot, and he still does the weekly column for Talkie, right?
Yeah.
So you can find them there as well. So anyway, though, we will be signing off now. Everybody, peace out and take care.